for many already, but maybe many, many more. How does it feel? And what's your thought about that? Have you thought about that?
I hadn't really thought about that because what it was a tool that helped me that I know can help a ministry that I love and the people that I love.
Yeah.
And you put people in the wrong place and they get burnt out.
Hey y'all, welcome to the My Place podcast. I'm your host, Mary McSwain. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm joined, as I normally am, by my dad, Jay McSwain.
Hey, it's good to be here, and we have a guest today, so cool.
We do have a guest with us, so before we jump into it, because there is a lot for us to talk about, would you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, my name's Mike Robertson, and I own a tire store in Gainesville, Georgia called Oakwood Tire. And I'm a layperson at North Hall Church that loves missions and youth ministry.
Now, we're going to talk a lot about the byproduct of missions and youth ministry and how you've seen the Lord move in your life. But take us back to the beginning of how you came to know Jesus and what that journey was like for you that got you where you are today.
Well, I grew up and my parents drugged me to church every Sunday. And by the time I got 16 years old, I had a driver's license, and then I started skipping church. And by the time I was 18, 19 years old, I was out on my own and I just wasn't going to church. And I was your normal party guy that Sundays were made for sleeping. And back in 1997, God started drawing me to him. And New Year's Eve of 97 to 98, it's the party night, but I didn't party. I was carrying the guys out and I was the designated driver. But that night I gave my life to Jesus because I knew there was something missing in my life and I needed Jesus Christ.
Wow. Mike, I also want to, just before we even get going, is thank you for your investment in my daughter. And I know we're going to talk about that, but I just want to first of all say thank you for your investment. And you guys will hear a little bit more about how that has come to be, but very grateful for you.
Well, she's been a blessing.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that Dad does a lot with his coaching sessions and when he sits down and listens to people's story. And I know that we're going to hear more and more and more from you about what you're passionate about, even some of your spiritual gifts and where the Lord has brought that in different areas of your life. So Dad, you can chime in now, or as we go, you can give your insight. But a lot of times when you listen to people in coaching sessions, you hear them speak through a particular language. Can you tell us a little bit about what you look for and maybe even what you've heard so far?
Well, I look to see, do they speak to the lens of their personality or maybe their gifting? And of course, Mike did immediately. I mean, he gets right to the point, 1997, New Year's Eve, is that right?
That's right.
And didn't party, gave it, and evangelism is his top spiritual gift. He's a D personality and gave my life to Jesus. And it was just right to the point. And he didn't beat around the bush and tell about everything, what the weather was like that night and what everybody was wearing. And it was just gave my life to Jesus. So, and I've figured out just being around you, hearing about Mike, we've been sitting here about 30 minutes before we hit roll, and everything is about evangelism and hearing about people getting saved. So he gave his own story, but I got to hear it even before we hit record on the cameras.
And we're going to talk a lot about some of those stories in this conversation because I wanted you to share with other people, not just your story, but the stories that you've been able to impact through the story that the Lord has written for you, through your experiences and your spiritual gifts and even your personality style. Because I will attest, in the year and a half, I think, that I've known you, I have seen that come to fruition through personal experience and just getting to watch you impact other people and bring other people along. And I think the very first time that we met, you asked me a question that I think you ask a lot of people. I don't know if you asked me the question or if you said, hey, have you ever been to Bolivia before?
I know it's something like that for sure, because we want to find those that are called to go. Mm-hmm. And so and when we talked, well, I'll pray about it, right?
Yes.
And you prayed about it and actually went.
Been twice now.
Yeah.
Been twice now. I want to talk a little bit about both of those trips, but tell me where that started for you? When did you first get there? And I could tell even the first time you asked me, it was a passion for yours. So tell us about where that passion originated.
Like I said, I got saved in 98. And so place wasn't around for us then at River Bend Baptist Church, but I started serving in Awana, and I knew that wasn't my place.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, but went to the youth group, and that's where it was. And then our youth pastor started a mission trip, and we were going to Peru. And God had different plans, and we partnered with Woodstock, and we ended up going to Word of Life, Argentina. That was my first experience as a mission trip. And then from there, we went several times to Argentina, and then started going to Word of Life, Bolivia. And so I've been to Bolivia probably 15 times, and now Argentina about 12. And I love South America. That's where God's called me to be. And so I love going there on short-time mission trip. Even prayed about, like we were debt-free at one time, even prayed about going on the mission field, but that's not the plan God had.
Yeah.
I love even the phrasing that you used, because there was so much clarity and confidence to that statement of, this is where I feel called to South America. And I think when it comes to even the question that you asked me, have you ever been to Bolivia before? We're going in April. It wasn't, I think you should go. It was, you presented the option to me as something to start thinking about. And I think a lot of times, even when we talk to people about, this is what we see you're gifted in, these are some of your passions, it's not telling people, I think you should do this. It's not guilt tripping into, I think you should pray about it. It's give people space by asking them the right questions, and then let God move in the space that you create through the questions that you asked. And that one question created space for God to move in my heart and call me there. And I think even in some of your experiences overseas, even going to Israel, there have been statements that people have made that have moved in your heart, that have called you back there. And I know there's one story that you like to tell people that I think is really impactful in relation to that, if you want to share with us.
So you and I actually have a Zoom meeting tomorrow about a trip that we're doing the beginning of next year. But for me, I've been to Israel 10 times. And a lot of the times I went, like a lot of people, as a tourist. And 4 years ago, and I've been 3 times since then, but 4 years ago, I went with a small group of people, and we did mission work. There were, I think, 4 of them had never been to Israel. So we did the normal tourist stuff too, which I would just sit with the bus driver and talk with him. But we were in the hotel right across from the old city of Jerusalem. And it was I honestly, Mike, I've never really liked mission trips. But I have always believed, to whom much is given, much is required. We live in America, and we're blessed beyond measure. And so I've always felt like every few years I ought to go on a mission trip. And I've never liked knowing that I'm going to go and I'm never going to see those people again. I'm relational, didn't like it. Well, we're in Jerusalem at the Notre Dame Hotel, one very nice. If you ever go to Israel, it's very nice. And I like to talk to the people that work there. And so it's late at night, and I'm in the lobby talking to, and they were pretty young kids in their early 20s, about Israel, and they were Palestinian. And a young lady said something that changed my life. And I said, I want to make Israel my place, like Bolivia is for you. Yeah. She said, all of you people come over here from all over the world, and you want to see all these dead stones, but you don't care anything about us living stones. And it was just, in my heart, just pierced me, because I knew that to be true. How we just go and want to see all these cool places, but we don't even see the people. And so when we go, I took you when you were 13, and then we did, a couple of years ago, we did a whirlwind trip there. And your mom loves to talk about that, but we will go in February, and we will continue doing ministry with the churches and organizations that I've started partnering with over there. So Israel's my place, like Bolivia is for you.
That's cool.
I think in both instances, I'm sure y'all could attest that it was not even so much the people or the place that had so much of an impact, but it was the people. that had so much of an impact on your experiences there. So tell us about over the last 20 years, how the people of Bolivia have impacted you and fanned into flame some of the passion that you have for them.
I can talk about the mission folks that we're going and partnering with. I mean, one of the girl there is, her name is Paige, and she literally came to my house a lot when she was a high school student, and she goes to Argentina, studies the Bible in Spanish for a year. Then she's down there for about 5 years, meets her husband, and now they're doing that. So I have a relationship with them, and then I start building.
Do
these
they
relationships.
live there now?
They live there now.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Yeah.
So, and then there's kids that was 7 and 8 years old. They're on my shoulders on a mission trip, and now they're at college at Truett McConnell. So it's something that, for me, that it's just like family. And so it's really cool to start building those relationships. And then the people of Bolivia, they're so responsive, they're so loving, and they're receptive to the gospel. And you just start making these friends and start hearing testimonies of these missionaries, and you go, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You shared about an experience at River Bend where you felt like you were in the wrong place. So I know that you have experience of feeling like this isn't the right fit for me. And obviously not every single part of a mission trip is meant to be catered towards individuals. It's meant to be given to other people. But I think experiencing the right place can be really impactful, especially on mission work, and especially when you're pursuing a passion that you have. It's not just about the people that you're passionate about, but it's about finding a place where your gifts can flourish and where you can use the gifts God has given you. So how have you been able to experience different trips and see that this isn't quite what my fit is, but this is an area where I get to come down here and use my gifts, and I'm not just passionate about the people, but I'm passionate about what I get to do with them and for them?
I can say, let's talk about maybe being a leader of a team and trying to put people in those places that they need to be. Knowing when you said yes to the mission trip, and if I would have taken you and put you in front of a school to share the gospel, that probably wasn't a good fit for you. And knowing your gifts, knowing what you did, we put you in the
pharmacy.
In the pharmacy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I lost my words there. In the pharmacy to organize and do that. And that was, if I'd have put you in front of that, you might not have had a great mission trip. So putting you where you're passionate, putting you where you know you can succeed, that's what helped me through place know what that was. And so for me, as I'm a leader, I want to make sure that, hey, this person, like, they're high in evangelism. Let's take them to the school. This person's high in leadership. Let's leave them behind. Let them organize everything. This person there, let's put them in places that they can succeed. And that was really cool for me to learn through that.
I love one of the things before we started recording, you were talking about with the group that you went down with, that you felt like place made it a lot better experience. And it's because of what you're even talking about right now, understanding their gifts and putting them in the right place.
Yes.
Makes it even more fulfilling for you as a leader, but certainly more fulfilling for someone that is going. And I think, what'd you say, Mary? Why did you like the pharmacy, working in that so much?
So one of the elements of place is the abilities part of the assessment. And that's where we really dive into what environment will you be fulfilled in, will you feel competent in. And I am high on social, conventional, and investigative. And the conventional element says that I like environments where there's structure, where I know boundaries, when I have expectations set on me, and when I know the rules. And social says that I also want to be around people. I like interacting with people. I like getting to talk to people. And investigative is I like solving problems with my mind. I like analyzing and solving problems, finding answers to questions. And the pharmacy, while I'm not passionate about it, it's not my calling in life. One of the things I loved about it is that for a week, I got to support someone else's calling, what someone else was passionate about. And it wasn't about me. It was about me supporting somebody else and me supporting someone else's passion. And I loved being able to step behind the scenes for a week in that way. Not because even with what we do, we talk about it all the time. If all of your attention is just focused on you and your gifts and your passions, if that's all you do all the time, you're going to start getting very self-centered, and all of your attention is going to be focused on what my life is all about. And while I do think a lot of our life should be in line with our design and our gifts and our passions, I think it was so valuable for me to step into somebody else's passion and use my efforts to be able to serve them. But from you listening to me, you also heard the environment that I would feel confident in and that I would feel fulfilled in. In the pharmacy where I was checking people in, I had a job to do. I still got to interact with people and show them where to go and use what little Spanish I remember from high school. And even the investigative side, something as simple as counting pills and putting them in a bag and making sure everything was right on the numbers side of it. That was simple. I'm not necessarily passionate about it, but it was an environment where I was competent in, as opposed to, say, going to the schools and not having the gift of evangelism and not just being social in my abilities, where I would assume it's a lot of interacting with people. And I think you would assume from even my spiritual gift of teaching, I would want to go out and talk to people in whatever way that looked. But you hearing me and listening to me, because it was from when I was teaching place with the college class that you're part of, you hearing me be able to speak through my gifts and my passions and my personality, my abilities, equipped you as a leader to be able to lead me well by putting me in a place where I would be competent and fulfilled. Even if it wasn't what I was passionate about, you knew the environments that were available on that trip. And so you led well because you knew where we were going, but you also knew the people that you were leading.
I do have a question. I thought about this. So you guys have the same pastor, Bucky. You serve at the church there. Church is relatively new, a little over 4 years, but you've been going to Bolivia before you came to when North Hall got going, right?
Right.
How did you, because now, from what I understand, Bolivia is a part of the mission endeavors of North Hall. Y'all are taking groups.
Yes.
How'd you convince Pastor Bucky that Bolivia was worthy of going and mobilizing people at North Hall, like Mary and others that are going with y'all? How'd you do that?
It was very easy, okay? Because Bolivia and Word of Life Argentina started with Bucky at Riverbend Baptist Church.
Okay.
So I was under Bucky's ministry when he was at Riverbend Baptist Church.
Well, that was a few years ago.
Yeah, that was 98 and 99 and 2000 when we first started going to Argentina. And so then when we got together at North Hall Church, he said, I want to rekindle the relationships that we've had with missions.
Wow.
And so we rekindled those relationships. He's actually going to Argentina in April while we're going to Bolivia again in April.
So how many times a year are you now going to Bolivia?
I went twice this year. So
this will be your
like 15th or 16th time. But if I could go every other month, I'd be happy. But
wow.
I'll just go. God opens up doors. I mean, it's crazy how it does.
So what's a small group to go with you? What's a large group to go with you?
We took 16 in April. We took 5 last month. So, and last month was different. It was just, we did a pastor's conference and Mary was able to teach place with the missionaries and they are eating it up. They love it. The leader of the mission is Emmy and he's learned what place is. He's learned his people, gives him a better perspective of what his people can do. It's been really cool to watch and see how that evolved.
It was really cool today at the church I'm on staff at. When we did I didn't even tell Mary this today, when we did our pastors always start off in prayer. And I said, I really have a prayer and a praise. And I was telling them we met about what a partnership with Bolivia might look like, but then you put it down on paper and are sending it and y'all were back and forth. And that's part of my thank you. For your investment in Mary, but also the belief in place. And hopefully that Bolivia, it opens up and however many trips later, Mary, there will be thousands of people that will be going through that because of Mike's vision, your faithfulness, Mike's faithfulness. So really cool.
I tell you, the really cool story was when she said yes, we didn't know we were going to do place on the mission trip. 2 weeks before we left, God just put it on my heart to ask her, hey, can we do this in Spanish? Yeah, we've got books in Spanish. It's not a problem. And then she ended up teaching it to the missionaries, and we had time, and and that was her saying yes, because she didn't know for sure what she was going to do when she went. And that was her putting her yes on the table for Jesus and being able to, then God just worked all the rest of the details.
Yeah.
I think there's so much evidence of how God honors faithfulness and obedience in that whole story of you being faithful just to speak about something you're passionate about and ask a question that, like I said earlier, created space for me to think about what does God want from me in this season and where does he want me to lay my yes on the table for him? And like you said, I had no idea. I didn't even know what y'all did on the mission trip. And then you told me it was a medical mission trip. And I have no expertise in that field whatsoever. And so I just thought it'll be a great week to help somewhere that I needed. I didn't even know about the pharmacy. And even if you would have told me about that, I would have felt underqualified because it's a lot of big words that I don't understand. But the faithfulness to say, to ask and to ponder and to pray and to bring it to the Lord. And then even, I remember when you brought up, hey, do you think we could do place there? You said yourself, I didn't know if I should ask. I've been thinking about it for weeks because I figured y'all didn't have it in Spanish already, like we couldn't do it. And that was the enemy trying to get in your head of like, there's all these reasons why this won't work.
Yeah. And
if you are just faithful to ask and create space for God to move, he will show you, this is why I laid this on your heart for a reason. And he laid it on your heart because I wouldn't have offered. I wouldn't have even thought about it, but he laid something else on your heart and you were obedient to ask and then created space for that. And I think, and you can attest to it, I'm sure, the difference that we saw in the missionaries there from April to October,
yes,
being able to understand each other and understand themselves, I think there was so much evidence for the impact that it had on their life.
I think it also brought unity to that team. That not that they didn't have it, but you could see it. I mean, you could see that what it did because they were knowing who each other are and where they were in their ministry and what they were doing in their ministry. I think it was really cool to see.
You know, when you said brought unity, I thought about in place when we talk about the benefits of place, page 3 in our workbook. And one of the benefits is we go to Ephesians 4, and one of the byproducts of people understanding themselves is maturity and unity, which is Ephesians 4:12. I think that's right, Ephesians 4:12. So yes, when people get in the right place, they mature in their own walk, and they also have unity with one another. So it's really, people always speak through the lens of the tool because the tool is built on God's word. So
absolutely,
thanks for doing that for us tonight. Yeah.
We've heard a little bit about the byproduct of what understanding place and being able to see it in the people that you're leading, how that has impacted your leadership and your ministry. But take us back to, I think it was around this time last fall, we were going through Place as a church and you sat through it for the first time. And if I remember correctly, it didn't just impact how you led other people, but tell us a little bit about how it impacted you personally.
And I'll say that Mary was teaching it. So
I was.
One of your first times to teach it all on your own, right?
First time ever.
Yeah, and in front of a lot of people, which it wasn't like 4 or 5 people. So, so sorry.
And she did a great job with that because I went into it with a bad attitude. I already knew what my gifts were. I knew I didn't need it.
Hey, don't worry. You're not the only one, okay? You're not the only one that is going in it.
But God took me to the woodshed and showed me if I do it, yes, hey, I have evangelism, but if I do it in my own strength, yes, I can go do this, but if I do it in my own strength, then I get ahead of God. And then just showed me how this is so much needed in ministry, how I can be a better leader because I understand what people need. Because if I would have taken her to the school, she might not have gone back to Bolivia. You know, you want to put people in a right place to succeed.
Yeah.
And that was what we did. And that's what God showed me in that. Like, you can lead a team, but you need to know what their personality is, what their gifts are, so that you can put them in a place where they can glorify God and that they can be happy with what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think as a leader, it's so valuable to not just know other people, but also to understand how the tool impacts you personally. We talk about that a lot when we train churches, is one of the best ways to know if it'll benefit someone else is if it benefited and impacted you. And you had that moment where God showed you something. It wasn't this new revelation about a new spiritual gift that you didn't know that you had. It validated some of the things that you already knew, but there was also a new word in that season of your life that the Lord gave you by even your obedience to show up there, and something new that he taught you through the tool. But you also understood how to use the tool to understand somebody else, like you did with me as a leader. So I think for leaders, it's such a valuable tool. Even if you are confident that you are in the right place, you know what your gifts are, you know how God is using you, you know what you're passionate about. You went through it, and nowhere that you served at North Hall Church changed, but it impacted how you served, and it impacted the people that you were leading and serving alongside. And I think that's why it's so valuable for ministry leaders and for individuals and leaders, that it's for you, but it's also for all the people that your life impacts.
I think it also gives you confidence in what you're doing, because, yes, I'm in the right place. And thank you for that, because God showed me that you're still in the right place.
Yeah.
He hasn't, you're doing what I've called you to do, just keep doing it. And that was a pat on the back, if you'd say, when I went through Place with that. But then I can do an infomercial for Place now. So we're good with that. So I love it.
I want to ask you a question. Bolivia. The places, we say this all the time, Place is just a tool to help people see how God's created them. And we can, Ephesians 2:10, for we are his workmanship. Place is just a tool to do that. How does it feel, your thoughts, that God has been using you to open up to potentially an entire country the coolness of helping people uniquely see how God created them? That you may be God's primary instrument that may open that door, has opened it for many already, but maybe many, many more. How does it feel? And what's your thought about that?
Ooh,
Have you thought about that?
I hadn't really thought about that, because what it was a tool that helped me, that I know can help a ministry that I love and the people that I love.
Yeah.
And you put people in the wrong place and they get burnt out.
Yeah.
And you don't want that to happen. And just these people that you've grown to love in Bolivia, and I got some other bigger plans too. When there's another ministry down there that we want to share a place with, and they've got like 86 missionaries that I'd love to see God be able to use Mary in that situation. But I really hadn't thought of it like that. But just being obedient is the big thing, and showing it. That's the cool thing.
As you think about, I hope you will ponder it, meditate on it some, and then realize it's 1 Peter. One of the again benefits of Place is that 1 Peter 4:11 is that God receives the glory. And we're not going to end this episode without one more thing about Mike that I want to bring to light. That's really cool, just what he gets to do. And why last week we had to change our recording from last week to this week, or was it last week? Yeah. But none of us, you might, because you're telling us something, you've been involved in 6 things that we're not going to stand on an athletic field, on a court, because we did something great and point people to Jesus. And I want to give my Lord and Savior. You see them on TV, and that's great when they do it. But that is exactly what you're doing in Bolivia, with helping people see how God created them so that they can go in the giftings that God has given them to reach them. So you're giving God the credit for what he's doing in you and through you, which is what 1 Peter 4:11 is about. Can we talk about the other thing that I think is really cool about Mike?
Absolutely, because I do want to talk about not just where you use your gifts overseas, but where you use it in your everyday life. But before we jump into that, I do want to say, even with regards to your question, about how does it feel to be someone who helped open the door to impact so many people. I think it's a testament to obedience and faithfulness that we have already talked about, but I think it's also a testament to how God brings people with different gifts and different passions together to do more together than they could do apart, because he brought us together through calling us through different people with different gifts and different passions, but we got to impact the same group of people in a very different way on the same trip in the same environment, but through the different ways that we're gifted and through the different things that we're passionate about. God brought us together on a trip that I don't think you have any medical background.
No.
I don't have any medical background. So on the surface to the world, it doesn't make sense, but God knew what he was doing when he orchestrated both of us to be on that trip at the same time with the missionaries that are down there, knowing even what they needed. It talks about in Proverbs giving a word to someone's season. In that season, even the couple who had never led a trip before, they just got put in charge of leading teams. And I remember the tears on his face of understanding that this is where God has called him. And just the one conversation that I had with him, getting to know that I don't have to have this gift to be in this role. This is how I fulfill that. And even just orchestrating the trip the way that he did, he used us with different gifts, different passions to impact the same group of people. And the common denominator was obedience and faithfulness and a willingness to say yes. And I think that is a testament to all of our lives and all of our ministries, is that the common denominator that the Lord is looking for is not our qualifications. It's not our past experience. It's not what makes us better or worse than another candidate. It is faithfulness, obedience, and a willingness to say yes, and a willingness to say, here I am, Lord, send me. And that is the thing that he's looking for from all of us. And I think that is true in Bolivia. And I think it's even true with some of the things that you're involved with even here, because you don't have to go overseas to use your gifts. So tell us a little bit about how you use your gifts here and how you've seen the Lord work in just your everyday life.
Well, I think, owning a store, a tire store, you got people coming in all the time. So you can use your gifts there because, yes, they need a set of tires or they need brakes, but what else is going on in their life? And so I've seen times where we've had prayer right in front of the counter where people needed it. And, have been there for 18 years. One of my guys passed away a few years ago, but he didn't know Jesus when I got there. But before he passed away, he knew Jesus. So your work is your ministry. And then for me, I coach basketball, so girls basketball.
Now we're getting into it.
So that's
my passion in life is high school girls basketball. So
and that's mine too. So it started with my daughter, and I was coaching at a Christian school, and then the opportunity came up to coach at North Hall High School, and the opportunity came, and I took it. And it's my ministry, and it's my wife's ministry. So she helps with NG3 with the girls basketball, and I coach the girls. And
I know Mary, y'all got Mary involved with NG3 with volleyball, but tell a little bit about what NG3 is.
NG3 is more of a small group setting, where FCA is a big group. They want to get the whole school involved. NG3 wants a smaller group, and to be able to more of a discipleship part of it. So they'll meet every other week with the girls. Kim has 15, 16 girls that she meets with every other week, and they just dig in the Word. And these girls are passionate about it, and it's really cool to watch because some of them have just accepted Christ. We almost had more baptisms than we did wins last year. So that's
you'd rather have more baptism than wins.
Absolutely,
you'd like to have both, but
let's have both.
If you have to pick one,
yes,
pick the baptism.
So
right?
We seeing girls get baptized, seeing girls grow in their faith, and watching God use my wife in that is really cool to see.
Yeah, that is really cool. Mm-hmm. And you got to coach your daughter. We talked about
yes,
and your son.
Yes, he was not as coachable as she was, but we won't go into that.
I hope he's not going to watch this.
I think both of those instances reflect how your gifts infiltrate every single part of your life if you allow God to use you in that way. And if you look for God in your day-to-day life, you don't have to go overseas to use your gifts. You don't even have to serve in church necessarily to use your gifts. If you have that eternal mindset and eternal perspective, and that is what is the most valuable thing to you, that's the lens through which you look at life, you'll see God move in a tire shop. You'll see God move in the gym. You'll see God move in your living room. And again, the common denominator is your willingness to say yes and your attention to the work that God is trying to do through your work. And I think the way that you talked about it and the way that you've given your yes to God in so many different ways is not every yes that you've given is within the walls of the church, and not every yes you've given is on a mission field. But in all the yeses you've given, you've given a yes to God that I'm going to let you move in any place that you've called me to.
And I think what is neat is he said yes in his church too. You serve in your church. He says yes in his tire shop that he owns, in coaching girls basketball, and going overseas. So it's really neat how in your totality of all your life, all the areas, that Mike says yes. And really, that should be the goal for all of us, is to say yes in every sphere in our homes. Your daughter works at the church, has to be fulfilling. And that really should be the goal for all of us, is in every area that we give our time, that we are serving God and saying yes.
Now, you said earlier that you can give an infomercial for a place, but I don't want you to give an infomercial as opposed to, I want you, if you could sum it up, if there is any word that you would like to give people.
I'm letting you give an infomercial.
You could give an infomercial, but if there is any piece of encouragement that you would like to give to other people, because I know that you've seen the Lord move in your life through the yeses that you've given him. So if there's any word of encouragement that you would like to give people of when you say yes to God, when you're faithful and obedient, how that can impact them, but just any word of encouragement that you'd like to give as we wrap up.
Yeah, I think with Place, for me, when I was impacted and God just did some things in my life when you were teaching it, and knowing that I already know that I'm high in evangelism. I'm really low in mercy. So my kids know that too. But knowing evangelism and giving were my two biggest things. And knowing that already, but being encouraged that, hey, this comes out on paper. You know, you see it, you study it, it comes out on paper that way. So that was encouraging. But also as a leader, just trying to figure out who people are and where can they succeed. Because for me, I'm getting older and I want that next generation to succeed. And I want to be able to train that next generation to succeed. I'm hoping that somebody's going to come alongside me and go to Bolivia and pick up the torch, because one day I'm not going to be able to go. And so finding that person through Place would be a great thing to see. So we see that. I'll give an infomercial with my daughter, who does serve at the church. She was needing host homes. And for our D now, she came to you and said, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are high in hospitality, call them. And we got a host home out of that deal. So it helps in ministry all the way around. I would encourage any church, any leadership in church to go through Place, because if you have that in your tool belt, the terms I've learned, if you have that in your tool belt, you can succeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing, but really just thank you for being here today to get to share what God is doing in your life, what he has done. I think that's one of the beauties of conversations like this, getting to share them with other people, is that we just get to share what God is doing. And what a blessing that we have the opportunity not just to be impacted by truth, impacted by other people, but we also get opportunities like this to talk about it and get to share with other people. So thank you for your willingness to say yes tonight to share, but also thank you for your willingness to say yes to have something to share and to be able to see God move and be so passionate about it that you want to share it with other people by inviting them on mission trips or coming on a conversation like this to get to share with other people that when you give your yes to God, when you are faithful and obedient, he can move in ways that we never would have even imagined. So thank you for joining us. Thank y'all for joining us. If this conversation was encouraging to you, if it was impactful to you, make sure you share it with your friends and join us back here next week for more encouraging conversations about how the Lord can move through your life.